Hey guys, Kinoflex here. The reaction to the latest film in the Predator franchise, Predator Badlands, has been met with a pretty divisive reaction, with people either loving it or hating it. So as expected, this has resulted in a number of divisive reviews from channels like Critical Drinker, to divisive response videos from channels like OtterlyNoah. But before we delve into the response video, I actually haven't made a proper review of Predator Badlands yet, so I'm going to start out with a review of the film so my own thoughts are out in the open, and they aren't positive. The Predator franchise has had a pretty incoherent direction with their films for decades, so it makes sense that they're trying to experiment with the format to find something suitable for it moving forward. But the problem is that they've gone way off course with the simple concept by trying to make it to something it's not, which is a massive franchise with a shared universe that branches into other movies and shows. The film starts out okay enough with the main character actually being a predator, which is a first for the franchise. The predator's name is Dec, and he's an outcast to his tribe because he's physically weaker, which draws the ire of his own father, who tries to kill him for not meeting his expectations, only for his brother to sacrifice himself for him to get away, to even make an attempt at proving himself. And as an opening, I would say that despite the predators not acting as the competent and honorable warriors are typically portrayed as, it at least gets the job done of introducing the main character, what his motivations are, and how big of a deal this quest he's on is for him. There's still a number of things that could have been added on, like fleshing out the Predator tribe a bit more, since again, this is a first for the franchise where they're not being depicted as simply killing machines. But as it was, I was reminded of something like Robert Eggers' The Northman, where the protagonist barely makes it out of his predicament alive and vows to get revenge. So I was expecting something along the lines of Dec going from planet to hunt down the strongest creatures to become a better warrior, only to come back and get revenge on his father. And while that is kind of what happens in the end, it doesn't happen in a very fulfilling way, because at no point does he actually become a better warrior. What happens is that Dec goes to a planet that is the home of a notorious monster called the Kalisk. And once he arrives, there's a total genre shift, because instead of this being a straightforward action movie, it becomes what can best be described as a Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff, where he meets and teams up with Elle Fanning's android character that doesn't act like an android at all, named Thea. The genre shift occurs not simply because of the constant jokes that come from her, but because it suddenly becomes a film about finding your family that you've either lost or has rejected you, and being in touch with your feelings, which completely breaks the tone that comes with a Predator film in favor of a more infantilized one. And that's really my biggest gripe with the film overall, because at a certain point you need to actually commit to the genre your franchise is unambiguously a part of. Otherwise, those differing genres are going to conflict with each other. Predator is not meant to be an action comedy franchise. It's supposed to be a gritty action franchise where the main characters get slaughtered for most of the film while maintaining a serious tone all throughout. Imagine watching a movie like Nightmare on Elm Street, where Freddy Krueger just finished murdering a bunch of teenagers, but before he can go on to murder more teenagers, you have a bunch of colorful gay demons come up to him saying, "Freddy, you can't be killing teenagers. That's unempathetic. You need to talk to us about your trauma so you can be a wholesome chungus. And it starts with sorry." Yeah, no, I'm not going to sing that garbage. The point I'm trying to get across is that you can't tell certain kinds of stories in established franchises without undermining the entire franchise as a result. In an attempt to try and reach new audiences, all it does is alienate the pre-existing fan base. We saw this before with the Predator movie from 2018 for doing that exact thing by trying to simultaneously be an action movie as well as a PSA about how great it is to have autism, with the Predators trying to steal it for themselves to become stronger. Badlands is no different, where Dec is a terrible predator all throughout the film, yet with the power of plot armor, I mean friendship, by the end he's able to not only defeat his much more experienced father who defeated him at the start of the film in combat, but also two other experienced predators seemingly out of nowhere, since he never acquired any actual skills that would make him better in combat. He really only gets told by Elle Fanning that he needs to start being the dad who steps up for their adopted marketable alien sidekick, because that's alpha behavior, which is frankly something you'd expect to hear on Disney Channel.
Be an alpha, got to stand up tall and proud. It doesn't matter if you're right, it matters that you're allowed to be an alpha.
So now that I shared my thoughts on Badlands, I'm going to begin the response to OtterlyNoah to see if he can successfully change my mind on the film. And let's just say, he certainly has his work cut out for him.
So just recently, Predator Badlands just released in theaters, and surprisingly, against all odds, actually ended up waking up the box office after an incredibly slow October. No joke, this October was the absolute slowest for the box office since 1997, which really is not a good thing and kind of shows that theaters are unfortunately not as popular with audiences anymore. Or at least not to the degree they used to be before the pandemic.
Starting off Otterboy's video, we actually have an interesting topic related to the movie-going movie-going experience. And what I think are the major components to movie theaters declining are a combination of streaming services becoming more prominent because it's a better overall investment to wait for a movie to come out digitally, and a lack of studio accountability for going way over budget for movies that have very low odds of making a profit with the amount of money given to them. What I think studios should start doing instead of wasting tens of millions of dollars for blockbusters nobody will go see is invest in ambitious directors with fresh ideas by giving them smaller budgets to put something together for wider audiences. The amount of films you have increases, and the chances of profitability also increase since they weren't made on bloated budgets. Plus, I think having more diverse viewpoints in circulation to appeal to different types of audiences will prove to be more successful in the long run than studios pressuring films to conform to a singular modern audience that doesn't exist by dumbing down films to the lowest common denominator. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think, so feel free to type them out in the comments.
But thankfully, Predator Badlands seems to have revived the box office for November with a $40 million debut. This is also a much needed return to box office form for Disney, especially since October was a pretty bad month for them in particular, given Tron Ares and Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere were both major flops. And especially with Tron Ares, I think you can draw a pretty apt comparison between that and Predator Badlands, since they're both Disney movies that take a classic 80s IP that has a very distinct formula to it, and take that formula in a completely different direction while still staying very faithful to the original films. But whereas Tron Ares unfortunately failed to land with audiences despite, by all intents and purposes, being a pretty solid film, Predator Badlands seems to have really taken off.
I know that we haven't even gone to his defenses of Badlands yet, but really man, you thought that Tron Ares was good? The video just started and you're not really building confidence in me that you don't just go out of your way to praise anything new. You're supposed to be an otter, not a raccoon rummaging through garbage.
It really seems a lot of people like this movie, and rightfully so. It's a pretty solid film. It's definitely a very different kind of Predator movie, but not necessarily in a bad way. It seems that it's garnered enough goodwill overall from critics to earn an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 71 on Metacritic. But unfortunately, it looks like a certain notorious subset of reviewers on YouTube and other platforms have not taken so kindly to this movie whatsoever. However, rather than actually offering any substantial criticism about Predator Badlands, it seems they're simply mad that a woman is one of the main characters in the film. Oh boy.
Is that right? All of the people you showed said that they hated the new Predator movie because a woman was in it, including all of the women you flash on the screen, and you're not going to show a single clip of them saying exactly what you're claiming?
Really makes you think.
And because of that, they seem incredibly upset and seem to think that Predator Badlands is feminist propaganda. I'm talking about none other than anti-woke film critics who really don't seem to like this movie at all, and one of the most notable ones for that would be none other than The Critical Drinker. The Critical Drinker is basically the poster child for this sort of anti-woke film criticism overall. Rather than actually criticizing a film for the things you should criticize it for, such as acting, cinematography, characterization, storytelling, pacing, and things like that, he'd rather get mad that the show Agatha All Along starred a female as the main character. Well, it's called Agatha All Along, Drinker. What'd you expect?
Oh wow, so apparently Drinker never criticizes Badlands over any of this. I am dying of anticipation to see if this is actually the case.
Or he'll get mad that the last Predator film had a female main character as well, despite the fact that was actually the best received Predator film in quite a while, funny enough, and it actually has a better rating than Badlands even. When Prey was initially coming out, he did a video talking about the trailer for it and claimed it was woke garbage. It was probably gonna star a female girl boss.
You know what? I'm not gonna take the bait. I could go back and show you clips of Drinker praising Prey to show you that this just isn't the case, but since you don't actually show him saying that's woke propaganda, I'm not even going to put in the effort, since you haven't even established it as a fact. Instead, to save time, what I'm going to do is just say that I don't believe you, Otterboy. I don't believe that the main criticism levied against Prey from Drinker was that a woman was in it. I think you're either exaggerating or outright lying to cater to an audience that doesn't care how much you get wrong, as long as you talk negatively about Critical Drinker.
And funny enough, guess what happened? Prey came out and was very well received, so he ended up making a video after that called Prey. No masterpiece, but surprisingly good. Wow, shocker. It's almost like you shouldn't go into a film with the exact same talking points every time and actually offer a real analysis of it instead. Gee, who would have thought?
He's presenting this as though this is a grave sin, but I'm not really sure why. He saw a trailer that he wasn't impressed by, only to think differently about the overall film once it actually came out. If anything, isn't that the sort of honesty we commend critics for? I myself disliked the trailer for Transformers 1, but ended up enjoying the film like a lot of other people. So there can be times when a trailer just doesn't meet expectations or shows something you care about. I'm also not a big fan of Otterboy's attitude of withholding your initial thoughts or opinions toward a film based on the trailer, because it doesn't sound like he holds the same standard towards uncritical positive reactions of trailers.
It's also funny because the exact same things that he tried to knock the Prey trailer for and call it woke propaganda as a result of are actually the exact same things that he gave praise to the 1998 Mulan film for when he was reviewing the live-action version.
See, the original actually took a pretty balanced and realistic view of the subject of women serving in the military. Animated Mulan wasn't particularly big or strong or good at fighting, because that wouldn't be realistic given her background. She was actually kind of clumsy and unsure of herself, and she had to work extra hard just to keep up with her male counterparts. But the difference here is that Prey is a prequel, you see. A prequel about a young Native American girl who has to defy her tribal traditions in order to take on a nearly invincible hunter from another worlds. Because, you know, if elite special forces operatives, hard-boiled detectives, and entire squads of specially trained government agents can't stop these things, then a 100-pound teenage girl is definitely going to make the difference.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture.
So he tries to knock one film for the exact same kinds of things that he praises another film for. The hypocrisy is very blatant with someone like Drinker, and he can't ever keep his talking points straight and really just isn't a real critic whatsoever.
So you just flat out didn't understand the complaint from Drinker here and strawmanned it as him calling Prey woke propaganda, which isn't what he said. Drinker was simply saying that he was skeptical over how a bunch of tribal warriors were going to take down a predator when a bunch of military guys with modern weaponry could barely take one out. You could argue that the weapons don't matter as much as intelligence, considering Arnold Schwarzenegger in the original movie relied less on weapons and more so his ingenuity to win, but by no means is this Drinker saying the film is bad because it has a female lead. Also, the comparison between Mulan is very strange, considering at no point does she find herself fighting an alien hunter from another planet. So what you talking about, man? Your attempts at trying to make these two movies sound as though they're the same only makes you come across as though you didn't watch either one. So if I were you, I'd hold back on saying someone else isn't a critic.
And now he's reviewed Predator Badlands in a review that might be even worse than his Prey review in my opinion. In this review, he seems to completely miss the point of so many things at every turn and also shows a real lack of media literacy and also just straight up lies about things in the movie as well. There's a lot to unpack here, so I guess without further ado, let's get into Critical Drinker's review of Predator Badlands.
Life really is a matter of perspective. For example, your boyfriend isn't really a useless, effeminate pussy who makes your skin crawl, he's actually just redefining masculinity. And I'm not actually drunk right now, I'm just redefining sobriety. Or in this case, Predator Badlands isn't actually a goofy buddy comedy complete with cute animal sidekicks, an insecure protagonist with daddy issues who has to learn to connect with his emotions.
Wow, so right off the bat, that was a pretty convenient way of oversimplifying and also straight up misrepresenting just about everything in this film. There's quite a lot to unpack in just that one sentence if I'm being real, but let's start with the fact that Drinker calls this film a buddy comedy.
Are you f***ing dumb?
I think anyone with just a passing knowledge of the Predator franchise as a whole can very easily tell you this is not a buddy comedy franchise.
No, Waterboy. He didn't say the Predator franchise is an action comedy franchise. He said that this specific movie was, which isn't even something that's in dispute among mainstream critics who you point to as the arbiters of whether a film is good or not, seeing how you commonly cite Rotten Tomato scores as if they communicate anything about a film's quality. I mean, come on, a big chunk of Elle Fanning's dialogue is her saying something quirky, and the goofy pet animal sidekick is literally named Bud. Who are you trying to convince in saying that this isn't a buddy comedy? And the genre isn't inherently the issue. After all, there are many great buddy comedies that juggle action as well as serious moments extremely well. Off the top of my head, there's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, In Bruges, The Nice Guys, Hell, the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy directed by Edgar Wright are the highlight of his career, and they're all buddy comedies starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. What the issue is with Badlands is that the shift in genre to a more goofier tone undermines both the stakes and seriousness that comes pre-established with the Predator franchise, something that serves as one of the main reasons for why Shane Black's Predator film was so trash. And that film actually kept its R rating, unlike Badlands with its PG-13 rating.
Toy Story is a buddy comedy, Blades of Glory is a buddy comedy, Predator is an action thriller franchise. I think you could also say there's definitely some elements of horror in the Predator films as well, although it's not as prevalent as something like Alien, which I would consider a straight horror franchise. Predator tends to fall under the category of action thriller for a lot of people since it focuses more on action and spectacle rather than suspense and horror. But I don't think anyone would tell you these movies are buddy comedies, and that actually includes Predator Badlands, even though Drinker apparently thinks it is a buddy comedy.
If you want to argue that Badlands still fits within the Predator universe despite being a buddy comedy, then go right ahead. But apparently we can't even have that discussion because you can't even agree with the fact everyone has already accepted. Get with the program, Otterboy.
But I think one of the funniest parts about this sentence is how he refers to the Predator in this film, whose name is Dec, as an insecure protagonist with daddy issues. Gee, that's a pretty convenient and very simplistic way of boiling down Dec's entire character arc, where he sees his brother die due to the fact that his father actually kills his brother at the very start of the film, and ends up going to this alien planet as a result to slay this unkillable beast since he thinks it's what his brother would have wanted for him, and after meeting an android played by Elle Fanning, has his ideas of what being a hunter really means challenged for him, and also really begins to question himself on why he's actually doing this hunt, and also learns to break the cycle between him and his dad, and also learns to be far more of a man than his dad ever was. Funny you quite literally left all of that out in that very telling synopsis of yours there, Drinker.
But nothing you said contradicted what Drinker said. Dec is insecure over how he is viewed by his tribe and wants to prove himself because of that. You're just adding more additional context that only further establishes what he said, but isn't necessary for his brief summary of the film. This is something a lot of pretentious video essayists can't seem to wrap their heads around, but you don't need to go into everything that happens in the film's plot to explain something. I would also like to add that he got a detail wrong for why Dec goes to the planet to hunt the Kaliska in the first place. It's not that he's doing it because he thinks that's what his brother would have wanted, it's because that's what his tribe expects from him as a rite of passage, which his father wasn't willing to let him do because he saw him as weak and wanted to kill him. It's an honest mistake, so I'm not going to harp on him too much, but I do find it funny that the guy lecturing someone else for not properly understanding a movie doesn't understand the motivations of the main character he's defending. Dec is driven by his insecurity over how his tribe views him, which is why he risks his life to hunt the Kalisk instead of doing anything else. It's a questionable motivation, but we'll talk more about it later.
This is pretty par for the course with all grifters, however. Rather than actually going into detail about the film, Drinker would much rather give you this incredibly short and honestly very narrow-minded look at what Predator Badlands is in his opinion in order to sell his audience on the idea that this film is woke propaganda, and clearly nobody's going to see it.
You can really tell that this guy's just looking for an excuse to farm content off of Drinker because he's bringing up criticisms that weren't made out of thin air. All Drinker has said up to this point is that Badlands is a buddy comedy and that Dec is insecure, which is true on both counts. And he never said woke propaganda at any point. So what are you talking about, Otterboy? If you want to signal your dislike of Critical Drinker, then by all means go ahead. But your criticisms need to be based in reality.
Well, I hate to tell you, Drinker, but it looks like the audience has already spoken for you. People are very clearly going to see this movie.
Okay, so Otterboy doesn't understand box office returns and also didn't do his research. In order for it to be profitable, Badlands needs to make roughly $210 million to $262.5 million. So far, it has only earned about $161 million on a $109 million budget. So even if it's the highest grossing film in the franchise, it's still not the most profitable in the franchise, which is still the original film from the 80s, since inflation hasn't been accounted for, as well as the modest budget the original had. If the first Predator movie cost $15 million to make, then making 4 times that amount at the box office when it came out is impressive. But if Badlands had a budget of $105 million, then only having a box office of $137 million in its first week is not impressive. This is why you don't just look at the headlines, Otterboy, because the people who write these articles don't care about being accurate in their reporting. Him bringing up the box office also just doesn't make any sense, considering Drinker never brought up the box office. he just talked about the story. So even if you were correct with your box office point, all you're really saying is that it's popular with a lot of people, which is a pretty poor way of measuring a film's quality, since bad films can and have been popular in the past. If I had a bad time watching a movie, I don't care about how much money it made while it was in theaters. And conversely, I don't care how bad a film's box office is if I found the film good. These are the sentiments I believe Otterboy has as well, which once again begs the question of why he even brought this up as a point in the first place.
Now, I can't say I was exactly bursting with anticipation when I went into this one, partly because the concept of a Predator movie told from the Predator's point of view felt like a fundamental betrayal of the very thing that makes them compelling, their mystique.
I don't agree with what Drinker said at all here, because you can absolutely have a great story from the Predator's perspective. You simply have one or a group of them hunting down alien prey that's a challenge for them, which we haven't seen before. Just a bunch of professional hunters getting shit done, where they either work together or compete against each other to take it down, while simultaneously using the story to properly build up the universe they're in, because there has to be more alien species in it besides predators and xenomorphs. But the problem with Badlands is that it hardly fleshes out anything, or fully commits to the honorable hunting culture of the predators. It's just a throwaway culture made for the main character to reject and nothing else, which is really lame and uninteresting. This is an alien culture that's been shrouded in mystery for decades since the first movie, and the best the writers could come up with for them is that they're all just a bunch of backwards thinking idiots.
Partly because those CGI heavy trailers with the horrible Predator redesign didn't do much to win me over, and partly because of early reviews from intellectual giants like Grace Randolph, who boldly gushed over the film's humanization of the Predator and a possible romantic relationship with a f***ing androids. Stuff like this is why women's fiction should be banned.
So I'll let you take a guess here. Do you think the Predator actually gets into a romantic relationship with Elle Fanning's android character in this film? If you said no, then ding 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 ding, you're correct, and unfortunately Drinker inevitably is very wrong. No, the Predator does not get into a relationship with an android in this movie. I don't know where he got this from, but Dec and Thea are quite literally just platonic friends throughout the entirety of this film. Heck, Dec doesn't even like Thea at the start of the movie. He refers to her as a tool. He thinks he's just using her as a way to get to his prey. I find it so funny that of all the things, Drinker thought these two characters were in a romantic relationship with each other, when no, that is very much not the case at all. It honestly feels like he didn't actually watch this movie whatsoever, which, go figure, he probably didn't. He's admitted to watching movies not very well in the past, like he did for Tron Ares, or even just admitting to not watching them at all despite reviewing them on his platform. Ah yes, clearly the mark of a very trustworthy critic there.
Otterboy. I just criticized Drinker for a point I don't agree with, and yet you somehow managed to make the worst possible criticism you can make because of your inability to understand sarcasm. Drinker wasn't agreeing with Grace Randolph here. He was making fun of her for thinking that would be an actual plot point. How can someone like this have the confidence to tell other people that they're watching movies wrong, only to keep an embarrassing error like this in their video response? Being nakedly bad faith like this only makes yourself look terrible.
Jesus, the amount of glazing this film's been getting on social media would have you believe it's the best thing since the 1987 original. In fact, according to Rotten Tomatoes, it's actually better, and it's not even close.
So all of it.
Off, Rotten Tomatoes. This is why nobody listens to professional reviewers anymore. Whatever the cost of selling your soul to your corporate overlords, I hope it was worth it, you bunch of dicks. Anyway, let's talk about this unholy union twixt Predator and Disney, shall we? The movie kicks off on the Predator homeworld, which funnily enough looks almost exactly like the other planet where the bulk of this film takes place. Hats off for the imaginative environmental design, chaps. Anyway, for that reason, I'm gonna call it generic alien planet number 1, because that's all it is.
Not really. The two planets this film takes place on are actually shown to be pretty different environments, that being the Predator homeworld and also the planet Jenna. The Predator homeworld is shown to be a very hostile and barren environment with plenty of rocks and jagged edges all around, and being a very desert-like environment in general. The planet Jenna, on the other hand, where Dec is actually hunting his prey, is actually shown to be pretty much the complete opposite. It's shown to be incredibly lush and lively, with a wide variety of different plant and animal organisms living on it. But despite its more welcoming appearance, it's still a very hostile planet, and you can tell they had a lot of thought put into each of the organisms that live on this planet in general. Even things like caterpillars caterpillars are dangerous on this world, since if you pick one up, it'll actually turn into a mini nuke. And there are also plants that'll shoot needles at you to paralyze you as a sort of defense mechanism. These two planets are incredibly different from each other, so I'm not really sure how Drinker didn't really pick up on any of this at all, since it's shown pretty clearly throughout the film. Since in many ways, the differences between these two planets in the film kind of ties into the main theme of the movie in general. But inevitably, Drinker completely missed this and just thinks these two planets are exactly the same, apparently. Right.
I'm going to be honest, I'm still shell-shocked from that last terrible point, that I'm just willing to say agree to disagree on this one. I think it looks no different from your standard run-of-the-mill jungle planet where random monsters spawn like it's some sort of JRPG, but if you think it looks great, then good for you, I guess. I just don't really care, besides thinking it's convenient that the entire ecosystem is full of living weapons for Deck to use.
This is also where we meet our main man, Deck, but henceforth I shall name him Lumpy because it gives me literally seconds of amusement and I need to take whatever wins I can get from this one. Anyway, Lumpy is preparing to go on his first hunt so that he can become a fully fledged member of his clan, but his toxically masculine dad has other ideas and instead orders his brother to kill him because he's the runt of the litter. The situation soon goes the way of your average Scottish wedding, and Lumpy ends up crash landing on generic alien planet number 2, where his mission is to find and kill the Kalisk, the most powerful and dangerous animal on the planet, and return victorious to generic alien planet number 1 so that he can take revenge on his toxically masculine dads. I mean, call me crazy here, but why not just go straight back there and kill him anyway? I mean, it's not like he's gonna have you back even if you do succeed.
Because he wouldn't stand a chance at all. That's why Deck didn't actually bother going back to his dad right away. He saw his own brother, who was already shown to be much stronger than him at the start of this film, get completely bodied by his dad and also get his head chopped off. I think Deck is aware, given the fact he's weaker than his brother, that he would not stand a chance against his dad at all and he would just die too. That's why he goes and slays this prey to begin with. He initially wants to bring it back to his dad as a trophy of sorts, and hopefully his dad will accept him back into his clan without killing him.
He can't return home until he completes this hunt or else he'll be killed. But at the same time, his dad doesn't care about him, so if he wants to prove himself and also get revenge on his dad, it begs the question of why he should even try to kill the Kalisk, or even return to his tribe at all, since they won't necessarily accept him even if he's successful. His ship was destroyed, so he's stuck on the planet no matter what, but his motivation for making the Kalisk a priority is still pretty weak, since he's not guaranteed to gain anything by killing it. It would have made more sense for his father to just send Deck to kill it, or for Deck to have a grudge against it the same way Ahab had a grudge with Moby Dick, by having the Kalisk kill his brother instead.
However, throughout the course of the film, he kind of realizes that it's not really worth sucking up to his dad, who doesn't even like him anyway, and decides instead to just hone his skills while here on this planet and go and kill his dad instead. That's shown pretty clearly throughout the entirety of this film, so I'm not really sure how Drinker missed this at all. It seems despite Drinker's giant forehead, he can't actually retain any sort of sense of media literacy behind that skull of his whatsoever.
I don't see how that would improve his skills whatsoever. This isn't World of Warcraft where you can just continuously grind and level up to fight bigger enemies.
Alright, thumbs up. Ready, guys? Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins!
Ah, whatever. Let's just go with it so that the rest of the plot can happen. So generic alien planet number 2 turns out to be a hostile, danger-filled hellhole where literally every animal, plant and object wants to kill you. It's a bit like Australia, except the locals are more friendly. Anyway, this is where Lumpy runs into quirky android lady who was part of a Weyland-Yutani expedition to the planet until her team got attacked and torn apart, literally, by the Kalisk. Oh yeah, and she can speak fluent Predator. How? Don't know. She makes some vague reference to other predators visiting the planet and talking to her, which makes no sense really because Lumpy's brother specifically said they don't go there because they're all afraid of the Kalisk.
Wow, you really weren't paying any attention there at all, were you, Drinker? What Deck's brother says about that planet is that their species doesn't currently go there because some have come in the past and they never came back. So what that means is that yes, some of their species actually have been there before. Also, I feel like this should be incredibly obvious, but Thea is not speaking Deck's language, at least not in a traditional sense. She is using her universal translator function as an android to be able to communicate with Deck and be able to be understood by him. The movie literally has her say this up front. Were you just not paying any attention at all?
This better universal translation. You hear Yautja, others hear their language.
Universal translators are a really dumb trope, and I'm surprised more people haven't pointed this out. It's completely ridiculous and lazy storytelling to insinuate that every living being in the universe, including species that have never interacted before, are able to converse with each other immediately and with no miscommunication whatsoever, especially in Badlands where Thea is speaking every possible language at the same time. That's not how language works.
Also, what are the chances that they'd land right in the very location where she just so happens to be, and not just immediately kill her?
This is legit just nitpicking. Drinker knows he doesn't actually have anything to criticize or deconstruct about this film, so he's just complaining that two characters happen to end up at the same location.
Did he seriously just say that Drinker has nothing to criticize, which is why he's criticizing this part of Badlands? How do you write that into your script and possibly think you made any kind of rebuttal here? This isn't even a nitpick since this is a massively important part of the film where the two main characters meet for the first time. But even if it were, that's still criticism, you silly otter. You're just upset that he's pointing it out with you unable to defend it.
This is a pretty common tactic for grifters overall. Instead of actually criticizing any real part of the film or piece of media that they're covering, they'll often just nitpick things when they can't actually find anything to criticize. Which, given the fact they always want to complain about everything and often complain about media that others find generally pretty good, they often end up nitpicking a lot. Shocker.
It's a common tactic of grifters to point out lazy storytelling in the form of 1 in a million coincidences. Okay, buddy, whatever you say.
Anyway, pretty soon they strike up a deal. Quirky android lady will help him find and kill the Kalisk if he'll take her back to her base camp so that she can be repaired and rescued. And many wacky shenanigans ensue. They're even joined by a cute little alien named Bud who wants to be part of the gang as well.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Okay, so what exactly is bad about Bud's appearance in this film? You didn't really elaborate on that at all. If Drinker had said something like he didn't feel like Bud actually contributed anything to the film, spoiler alert, he does, he's the son of the prey that Dec is hunting.
Bud's role in the story is so forgettable that you can't even remember that she's a girl. Bud is simply another attempt at appealing to booger-eating children by introducing a cute alien character. That's it.
Then, while that still would have been a completely BS claim, it would have been a lot more than just simply saying, oh, he's a cute alien and I don't like that, and then leaving it at that. Because that's exactly what he does here. He doesn't actually elaborate on why Bud being a cute alien is a bad thing whatsoever. He just brings it up once here, then moves on to his next talking point without actually elaborating.
Yeah, because it's absolutely necessary to elaborate on why dumbing down a straightforward franchise for adults to appeal more to kids is a bad thing. People also don't tend to elaborate or go into detail on why the attempt by the Predators to weaponize autism in Shane Black's movie was stupid either, in favor of just making fun of it. Because just like introducing a funny mascot character, it's a ridiculous idea on its face.
But can they hope to take down the most powerful killing machine in the universe so that he can finally confront his toxically masculine dad? Is quirky android lady hiding a secret from Lumpy? And what became of her sister Tessa, who also went missing during the expedition? The answer, of course, is who the cares?
I mean, the movie does explain exactly all of those points that you just mentioned. They do explain what happened to Tessa, Thea's sister, during the crash and show that she's actually basically the main villain of this story. And yes, they do reveal that Thea actually was hiding a secret about her sister the whole time and that she was on the hunt for the exact same thing that Dec is. That's kind of exactly where the main emotional conflict between Dec and Thea comes from, because Dec feels betrayed that Thea didn't tell him this before. She knew the whole time her sister was after the exact same thing, but she didn't inform Dec, so obviously he feels very hurt by this. Of course, though, Drinker didn't actually pay attention to the film and thought it would be a better idea to make this cringy rant video where he basically doesn't acknowledge all the things that the film directly puts out for him. Like, holy shit, this film spells things out so well, you'd have to be completely brain dead to not actually retain any of it. And this film's not even that long either, it's only an hour and a half long, so it shouldn't even be that hard to retain that sort of information either. Drinker is such an incompetent critic that it kind of hurts.
Like I said earlier, your ability to enjoy Predator Badlands is all going to depend on your perspective here. If you're somehow able to forget the whole Predator thing and just see this film as a generic sci-fi adventure movie with light-hearted comedy undertones that's clearly been geared towards a younger audience, then there's probably some enjoyment to be had here. The visuals are mostly fine, there's fun little action sequences to keep you amused, a likeable underdog protagonist with a clear emotional arc, and a well-worn but still effective central theme of friendship, loyalty, and redemption. That's all very nice, and on that basis, Badlands more or less works as a slightly dumb, undemanding, but reliable sort of movie that doesn't ask too much from its audience. Here's the problem though, it's not a generic sci-fi adventure movie, it's a Predator movie, and that name comes with some pretty important expectations. You don't walk into a Predator movie looking for a quirky buddy adventure with cutesy animals and family drama any more than you'd walk into a Saw movie looking for a romantic comedy.
Not really, because if you actually watch this film, the comedy actually isn't really that frequent at all. This film, for the most part, plays itself pretty seriously since, like I said before, it's not a buddy comedy, it's an action thriller, just like every Predator film is.
That's not quite right. As a matter of fact, that's not at all right.
But funny enough, even just on that merit, Rinker is actually wrong about everybody expecting this film to be just like every other Predator film. Because, shocker, the marketing already made it very clear this is going to be a very different kind of Predator film, given it's the first one to actually star a Predator as the main character. This film was already setting itself up to be a very different take on this franchise from the get-go just by that merit alone. And as a result, the people who were actually paying attention to the marketing knew to go into this film expecting a very different kind of Predator film, which, yeah, it is, and in a good way.
A film being a different take from the original doesn't automatically make it good. The Predator franchise can be seen as a constant reminder of that, with the amount of films that try to be different from the original, only to fail in their attempts. I also don't care remotely about the marketing, I simply care about the quality of the film itself.
It still does keep the core essence of what this franchise is all known for, with a ton of violence and very cool stylish fights, but also it does have a very different angle on it all as well.
Guys, if you actually just pay attention to the fights in Shane Black's Predator movie, while ignoring all the dumb jokes and stupid plot points, it's actually a perfect Predator movie. This is the level of argumentation you're using, Otterboy. You can't just fixate on one aspect of the film when everyone else is evaluating it as a whole.
In some ways, it ends up being sort of a deconstruction of the Predator way of life.
But this isn't true because we get nothing of the Predator culture to deconstruct. Just the main character's dad who isn't even following the rules of his own culture.
And also definitely a deconstruction of toxic masculinity as well. The main character, Jack, is able to learn that the methods his father taught him aren't always the answer to every single situation out there, and he must think for himself sometimes as well. And as a result, he's able to break the familial cycle and not feel like he has to suck up to his father constantly or impress him at every turn. It's honestly a really great message that still keeps in line with a lot of the things we've seen in previous Predator films. So no, this film taking a slightly different approach to the Predator franchise does not ruin it whatsoever.
Dec also doesn't really move past his culture's approach to just killing things to solve all of their problems, which was one of the main points Thea presented to him, as that's what he still ends up doing in the end to solve his problems. If he simply beat his dad and the other Predators in combat without killing them and said that he was going to lead his culture into being more honorable, then that would be a notable deconstruction. Toxic masculinity is just another useless buzzword applied to anything a bad guy does who happens to be a man so that you can try and force some deeper symbolism that's non-existent. People who say that the original Predator was all about communicating how toxic and harmful masculinity is conveniently forget that Arnold Schwarzenegger ultimately won by harnessing his masculinity to kill the Predator in the end. This is because the film isn't against masculinity, but machismo or showboating where people act as though they are capable manly men when they're actually not when push comes to shove. Almost all of the main characters' deaths communicate this to a degree, given the underlying irony of how they died. Hawkins thinks chasing after women makes him look manly and brags about how big his girlfriend's pussy is to the other guys to impress them, only to end up dying after chasing after a woman and with a big hole of his own in his chest. Blaine's pride as a man comes from his muscular build and minigun, which becomes useless against an opponent who is both physically stronger and possesses more technologically advanced weaponry. Mac's pride in his manhood stems from his hunting skills and ability to kill or inflict pain, only to be outshined by a better hunter and killer. Dylan is a man who needs to feel as though he's in full control of his situation, and as such is willing to deceive people he considers his friends to accomplish that, only for him to end up getting killed in a situation he forced himself and the others into. Billy's honorable pride as a warrior prevents him from retreating from the incoming threat of the Predator, so he decides to face it head on to allow his friends to retreat and die an honorable death. This, however, doesn't matter to the Predator, who doesn't have honor, as he simply kills Billy off quickly to get to the others, as though he were an an afterthought and fetches his body later, making his sacrifice somewhat pointless. This leads into Pancho Ramirez's death, which only serves to further showcase a Predator's dishonorable qualities of killing an injured unarmed man who can't even fight anymore. This then of course leads us to the Predator's own death at the hands of Dutch, who establishes himself as a force to be reckoned with in their final fight, not by putting on a performance of how macho he is, but by putting forth the effort to understand and adapt to his surroundings with a cool head. The Predator, on the other hand, slowly loses his composure as his advantages over Dutch begin to vanish, rendering him to be just some ugly motherfucker. And as a final humiliation, he disgracefully blows himself up in an attempt to take Dutch out with him, but of course fails, which makes his final act one of a sore loser rather than a respectable warrior. There's a lot of depth to be found in the original film, but none to be found in Badlands. The narrative weight in the final fight of the original is based around Dutch surviving his interactions with his adversary, whose tactics he's been learning in every encounter, for a role reversal to occur where he has now become the Predator. But in Badlands, the final fight is the main character just going, "Man, I think I'll kill my dad," where he apparently became a better warrior off-screen compared to when he fought him in the beginning, despite not really learning any particular skills that would enable him to overcome the more experienced warriors in his tribe, like his father. And all it really accomplishes is him declaring that he wants nothing to do with his tribe, while having an unnecessary fight to prove himself as a capable warrior. He also gets a camouflage cloak, but how does that help him become more of an alpha? Wouldn't he be more of an alpha if he put his tribe behind him to just live his life in peace instead? If this is how your story concludes its narrative, then it's pretty confused with what it's setting out to do.
Honestly, go watch the original Predator, then skip straight to this thing and just think about what you've witnessed. The difference in tone, style, and intent is more jarring than taking an F1 car to 200 miles per hour and throwing it into reverse. It's insane to think these two movies even belong to the same franchise.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. It's almost like those films were made by two different directors and also came out 40 years apart. Apparently a concept that Drinker has yet to understand is difference of directorial intent. Two different directors can make two different films in the same franchise and have them feel totally different, and that's completely okay. That's what keeps franchises fresh and interesting, especially franchises that have been around as long as Predator, starting all the way back in the 1980s. While Drinker apparently thinks he's gotten some sort of knock against the film with this, he really hasn't, and he apparently doesn't realize that either. What a surprise.
Two directors can obviously make two different movies, but they can also obviously differ in quality. Do I really need to bring up Shane Black's The Predator for the upteenth time now?
Quippy humor and animal sidekicks absolutely do not belong anywhere near a Predator movie. I mean, why do you think Shane Black's film was such a gigantic clusterfuck?
Welp, never mind since Drinker brought it up for me. But let's see what Otterboy thinks about it.
Okay, so first of all, Shane Black's movie was a giant clusterfuck, not just because of the cringy humor that was incorporated in the film, but a lot of other things that were incredibly wrong with that movie overall. I think one of the biggest ones that people took issue with, myself included, is the film's awful portrayal of autism as one of the main plot points. For those unaware, the Predator 2018 film by Shane Black stars an autistic kid who the Predator is trying to hunt down for some reason. Apparently he wants to kill this kid and inject his spinal fluid into his own body in order to steal his autism since he thinks it's the ultimate weapon. No, I'm not making that up. The Predator 2018 film is totally insane and not really in a good way. And the autistic kid is some of the most stereotypical autism portrayal I think I've ever seen personally. He's shown cowering in a corner pretty much every minute, covering his ears, doing all the things that everyone thinks that autistic people always do. Which, yes, while autistic people do get overstimulated easily, especially by loud noises, myself included, it's not something that we do every single second at every noise. Also, this film is pretty notorious for having perhaps one of the most stereotypical portrayals of Tourette's as well.
I mean, why do you think people make war?
Why, Baxley? Why do we make war?
Baxley, because
Because we cock. That's it. Because we cocks. That's why.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
One of the main guys on the prison bus that the main character teams up with has Tourette's, and his portrayal is a big yikes in my opinion. Funny that South Park did Tourette's far better than the Predator 2018 did. Also, the Predators in Predator 2018 are not scary at all, and they're not even intimidating either. There are a lot of things that you could actually knock this film for, including the cringy humor, but of course Drinker can only focus on one thing. And once again, while cringy humor and other things did ruin Predator 2018, Badlands doesn't actually have that much comedy in it once again. Like I said before, this is a film that actually does take itself pretty seriously, so I'm not really sure why Drinker is so hung up on the comedy aspect here. It's just not really a thing in this film, although it is kind of funny that he appears to think it is.
Okay, so he understandably finds the portrayal of autism and Tourette's in the movie offensive. But that's besides the point of the overall plot of stealing the autism being stupid and incompatible with a franchise like Predator. It doesn't suddenly become a better movie if the portrayal of autism or Tourette's becomes more tolerable, since it still leads down the same dark road of the film's script. But I'm not even really sure Otterboy can articulate why the script is so poorly written, considering all of his points of either praise or criticism are the surface level aspects of a film's ideas and not the overall execution of them, which is what's most important when evaluating quality filmmaking.
I don't exactly consider Prey a masterpiece either, but it definitely is compared to this thing because at least it took itself and its characters seriously. I can't take any of Badlands seriously because the film itself treats every fight and plot event as a joke.
Although I do find it very rich that he claims Predator films should never have humor in them to begin with.
I would love to see a clip of him saying that, considering you showed no such thing of him saying that in your video whatsoever.
As if Drinker is the end-all be-all criticism for the Predator franchise.
Yeah, apparently that's your job since no one is allowed to ever criticize something you like, Otterboy.
And don't even get me started on Lumpy's creature design. Like, how the fuck does a movie from 1987 look better than a $100 million Disney project with cutting-edge special effects? How have we gone so far backwards? I honestly can't emphasize enough how soul-crushingly horrible a downgrade this actually is.
Okay, first of all, he is supposed to look weaker than all the other Predators because he is the weakest of his clan, and that's a major plot point in this movie. But even outside of that, pretty much every Predator we've seen in these films has a different character design, and there's been a big variety to that as well. Like, compare the Predator in the very first film to the Berserker Predators in the 2010 film, or even just comparing those to the upgrade Predator in the Predator from 2018, or to the Feral Predator from Prey, or comparing any of those to the three incredibly distinctive designs that we got for all the Predators in Predator Killer of Killers. This series has always introduced cool new designs for each of the Predators, so why is this any different here? This is just keeping in tradition with the franchise and also making sure to make the Predator look weaker as to keep in with the main themes of this movie and also the main plot. I really don't know how you miss any of this.
Okay, and he's saying that he looks visually unimpressive from a movie with a budget of over $100 million. You're not addressing his actual criticism. And you saying that everyone finds every Predator redesign cool is a worthless claim when your only source for it is yourself.
Then there's just the stuff that's straight up irritating, the biggest of which is by far quirky android lady.
I wouldn't wish that on a broke dick dog.
Holy f***, man, the moment she shows up on screen, my urge to ram my fist through the TV rose about 500%. Why on earth would you program a synth for a high priority mission like this to act like some ditzy bimbo with Tourette's?
So instead of immediately responding to Drinker's point, Otterboy fixates on talking about Tourette's, which is a complete waste of time, so I'm skipping over that to address something of actual substance.
But even outside of the blatant mischaracterization of Tourette's, Drinker doesn't really seem to understand that Thea's character is intentionally supposed to seem annoying at first. The audience is viewing her through Deck's POV, and of course he's incredibly annoyed with her at first at the start of the film since he only views her as a tool and doesn't like that she keeps trying to talk to him. However, by the course of the film and all the things they go through together, he ends up warming up to her, and by the end, they're bona fide friends. Apparently, however, Drinker totally missed this.
Oh, of course! Just like how Deck looks bad on purpose, Thea is insufferable on purpose. Why isn't she just like her evil sister despite being built the same way? Just hand wave it away and never address it. I'm sure you spent a lot of time coming up with this rebuttal, Otterboy. Your main complaint of the Predator was how unrealistic the portrayals of autism and Tourette's were, but now you're complaining about people taking issue with a robot not acting like a robot. I am begging you to be consistent, because I'll have you know that clanker representation matters too, after all.
The more I think about it, the more I realise this is literally a Disneyfied version of the Predator, neutered and toothless, with all the tropes and cliches you expect from a Disney movie.
Oh, really? So you're trying to claim that Disney totally neutered the Predator franchise and made it completely safe and overly marketable?
Yes, Otterboy. Which is why this is the first Predator movie to be given a PG-13 rating to make it a more family-friendly movie. Why else would they do that?
And while Predator Badlands is rated PG-13, a lot of that is simply because the violence in this film is between aliens and robots. There definitely still is a lot of very brutal and visceral violence in this film, but given the fact it's not actually happening to humans, the MPAA actually doesn't qualify this as an R-rated film because of that. Which I find funny because some of the violence is still just as violent as the things in those previous movies as well, but because it's not happening to humans, they won't give it an R rating. The American film rating system is so weird sometimes.
Oh my fucking god, man. It was written to be that way so it can have the PG-13 rating, you doofus. You have no idea how any of this works.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
This is what the Predator franchise has devolved into. A financial commodity instead of a sharp and violent artistic endeavour, reshaped and remolded into a safe, inoffensive, focus-tested corporate product, ready to be churned out by the truckload until it becomes financially unviable. Well, based on the opening weekend projections, that eventuality might come sooner than expected.
Well, that line did not age well at all, given exactly what I said at the start of this video. This film opened with a $40 million weekend and already blew away expectations quite a bit since it was expected to open for $25 million instead. It also helps that this film was actually getting good reviews, unlike something like Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere or Tron Airy. As a result of the general good buzz around this film, people are actually going to see it and obviously enjoying it as well. Unless you're a drinker, I guess, and didn't actually watch the movie and just passed out after your 6th glass of ale.
We've already been over this, Otter Boy. Badlands has not earned enough to be considered profitable yet, so you can't really use that as a point against Drinker.
But overall, I personally enjoy Predator Badlands, and I hope my video here helped you understand just how awful Drinker is as a reviewer, and most of these grifters are overall. Thankfully, it does look like me doing these videos is paying off and helping people understand where real criticism comes from and what it actually looks like, so thank you everybody for paying attention to these videos.
I'm actually incredibly curious on what specifically you said in your video for you to think that, because the entire time, your criticisms have been a combination of appeals to popularity, getting details of the film wrong while claiming to understand it better than Drinker, going on long unrelated tangents that had no relevance to the point being raised, attacking people's appearances for no reason, completely failing to address points Drinker made, and attributing points to Drinker that he didn't even make. The worst one being a take he literally made fun of Grace Randolph for having. So if you want to improve your commentary, I would recommend you drop the undeserved smug attitude, because all it accomplishes is making yourself act like a complete idiot who is making online discourse worse. And Otterboy isn't the only contributor to this ongoing problem. There are a number of people who fully dedicate their channels to making lazily made response videos to Critical Drinker because they understand that a content creator as big as him is going to have people who dislike him. So they meet this niche demand by quickly making response videos to videos he just uploaded to benefit from being contrarians without actually refuting anything he said. A good example of this would be the Pink King, who is someone one of my viewers wanted me to respond to since he also made a response to Drinker's video on Badlands. But the problem with that is that after checking out his video, I see no reason to respond to it whatsoever, because the video isn't even defending Badlands from criticism, it's his review of Badlands that he advertised as a response to Drinker with his thumbnail. The most he comes to criticizing Drinker is by making the same accusations as Otterboy, by claiming he called Badlands woke propaganda, despite not saying that anywhere in his video or showing any proof of him saying that. Even if Pink King was lazy in how he went about it, these other channels operate the same way by being less about proving Drinker's points wrong, but to reap momentary benefits after he posted a video by just saying he's wrong. And this is exactly why I'm starting a new response series to point out how shallow these rebuttals are to encourage better engagement. So stay tuned for more videos. But hey, those are just my thoughts. And if you have any of your own, then feel free to flex them off in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.